Hello. Like you, I wish we could talk face to face. I wish I could hug you and shake your hand, but that isn't going to happen for a while, and that's disappointing. Disappointment is one of the first things that I both felt and observed as our culture began to cancel gatherings left and right. My heart first went out to those high school seniors and college seniors at sporting events. They've waited their whole high school or college career, and then those sporting events get canceled. Or what about drama kids who have worked months pouring in time and couldn't wait to do that production, and then it was canceled. Disappointment came swiftly to those who have spent months planning a special trip or vacation, and to grandparents who can no longer spend time with their grandkids right now. I think we know that disappointment can range from something small, like having to cancel a birthday party at a local restaurant, to absolutely devastating, a man not being able to be at the side of his critically ill wife as she lie in a hospital bed. Here are some things that might help us as we walk through times like this that bring disappointment. One, talk about your disappointment. When we're hit with the unexpected, with disappointment, we go through a gamut of emotions and thoughts. We may feel stunned, confused. Wow, how does this fit in with my belief system? And then we experience sorrow. Biblical characters did not shy away from talking about their disappointment. Listen to Naomi in the book of Ruth. Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. Elijah, hunted by a wicked leader, Jezebel, cried out for God to take him, to take his life. He was sure he was the last servant of God's left on the face of the earth, and quite frankly, he didn't want to continue this gig alone. When we feel disappointed, and who hasn't during this pandemic, just talk to your people, talk to your friends, talk to your spouse, and talk to God about it. Think about those biblical characters. Hannah wept bitterly over being barren. David was distraught over a wayward son. Job asked question after question when his life-altering events seemed impossible to figure out. To read the biblical account in each of their lives is to see that God shows up time and time again after they pour out their confusion, their frustration, and their sorrow. Unexpressed disappointment can spiral into depression and even despair. So it's okay to be honest. It's okay to be talking about your disappointments. Number two, expect the unexpected to refine and strengthen your faith. Disappointment can, if we'll let it, help us reevaluate our expectations about life. What are we really counting on? And kind of examine, where have I really placed my hope? Is it in our accomplishments? Is it in our jobs? Is it in our bank account? Temporal things often disappoint. Proverbs 23:5 says, "In the blink of an eye, wealth disappears, for it will sprout wings and fly away like an eagle." God, on the other hand, is not temporal, and He will never sprout wings and abandon us to our own selves. Investment counselors tell us repeatedly, do not panic, keep the big picture in mind. You invest for the long haul. Well, that's quite frankly good advice for life in general. We all face disappointments, and God has a better track record than the stock market does. God isn't up one day and down the next, reliable one day and unreliable the next. So let's encourage one another to lean into Jesus during this time. Count on the scriptures. Don't ever forget what Joseph said to his brothers. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. Expect this to be a time of spiritual growth and a time of greater peace, not less. So after you've talked about your disappointments, after you've examined where it is that your hope lies, lastly, I would suggest that we get active outside of our disappointment. Take a break from it. Here's a coping mechanism I learned. I hope it could be helpful. Maybe you aren't ready to let go of that disappointment yet. Maybe you shouldn't let it go yet. But you sense inside yourself, you know that to either deny it or to be consumed by it is not going to prove healthy for you. Here's a suggestion. Set a timer in the morning. Give yourself 15-20 minutes to simply feel your feelings. Feel your disappointment. Sit with your sorrow. And then when that timer goes off, step forward and re-engage life. You can set the timer again the next morning if you need to. So re-engage and see what's going on outside of your own self and outside of your setting. We all know the famous Mr. Rogers' mom's words to him, in times of emergency and crisis, look for the helpers. Sure, there are a lot of negative stories going around, people hoarding product, gloves and soap being stolen out of hospitals. But there are also some really great stories of people helping one another. There's an online site you probably are familiar with called Nextdoor. I've seen it help people connect and help each other. Somebody posted the other day, hey, I've got extra toilet paper, who needs it? Look for the helpers and be a helper. Start with your own people. Maybe you have a friend. I did this week when I asked, hey, how are you doing on toilet paper? They needed it, and we had plenty to spare. So share with your people first and share with your neighbors as you can. At the church, we're exploring ways to help the community with what could prove to be significant need in the coming days. We'll keep you posted because maybe you can get engaged there as well. Remember this, God is never caught off guard. He never goes on vacation, which is probably good because it would have been canceled anyway, right? God has people in every strata of society working for the community's shalom. Pray for those people on the front lines of healthcare. Pray for those owners of small businesses. Pray that God would use this time to show himself, make his work evident in our society, and draw people to him. Julian of Norwich, a Christian mystic who witnessed in her lifetime the devastating effects of the Black Plague and other pandemics so prevalent in the 14th century, herself seriously ill at one point, experienced visions of Jesus. Later, those were recorded in her book, The Revelations of Divine Love. One of her most famous quotes comes from that time of great trial and great communion with Jesus, and those often go hand in hand. And I'm going to leave you with that quote today. She heard Jesus say, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of thing shall be well."
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roar, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, though trials should come, let this blessed assurance control that Christ has regarded my helpless estate and has His own blood for my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. My sin, oh, the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin, not in part, but the whole was nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my